I am not teaching, I am publicly learning. Hi and welcome to Learning for Life in UK. It is part 441 while doing morning stretching. And if you participate in the morning stretching, I'll stretch your homework. Now, and we had here a chapter about the early time of Britain. Now, and let's try to learn it in a way that I can save it in one through and a little presentation. So during the Stone Age, the people living in Britain were hunters and gatherers. During the Stone Age, Britain was connected to the continent by a land bridge. The people followed the deer and horse herds, which were hunted. Around 10,000 years ago, Britain became from the China completely separate, or permanently. Around 6,000 years ago, first farmers arrived in Britain. First farmers coming from Southeast Europe arrived in Britain. They built houses, tombs, and monuments. Of course they built houses. And one of these monuments is Stonehenge, which is in Wiltshire. And that was probably used for seasonal ceremonies. And another survival thing, another remnant of the people coming from Southeast Europe as farmers 6,000 years ago to Britain, is REG, which is a prehistoric village on Orkney, which is at the coast of Scotland, the coast north of Scotland. And that helps archaeologists to understand how the people lived during the end of Stone Age. Then 4,000 years ago, the Bronze Age started. It is called like that because people were starting to use bronze. And they made, for example, out of bronze and also out of gold, tools, ornaments, and weapons. Then there was the Iron Age, and people made things out of iron, weapons and tools. Larger settlements grew. They still lived in round houses, where people lived in round boroughs. People lived in round houses, so they built houses, they lived in round houses, and they buried the dead in houses in tombs called boroughs, round boroughs. Now you're going to ask me. And we grouped together in larger settlements, and we now also built forts, for example, Maiden Castle, which is in Dorset. The language we spoke was Celtic, similar to the other parts of Europe. And still today there are in Wales and Scotland similar languages spoken. Wales, Scotland and Ireland. And we had in Scotland it was Gaelic, and in Ireland Irish Gaelic. And in Wales it would be Welsh. They had a sophisticated culture and economy, and that's also the time when they first started to mint coins. And on these coins had the head of their kings. That's the beginning of the British history. Now, I'm going to try to save it all in one through in another video which we're going to shoot while we're doing that video. As a perfect way to learn it. So I'm going to start the camera now. Having some technical difficulties. Okay. Now I'm trying to save it all for a second video, which is done when just people can then search for just for that. What is it even? A little basic overview of people living in Britain in the first what is it called in the first time, in early Britain. A little overview of the living conditions of the people, living conditions. A little overview of the history of early Britain. So during the Stone Age, 10,000 years ago, Britain was not separated from the continent. It was, what is it, not separated? It was not separated, that's correct. A little overview of the life of the people during this. A little overview of the early history of Britain. During the Stone Age, around 10,000 years ago, Britain was not separated through the Channel, and the people just went back and forth. They followed deer and horse herds, and they hunted them. Then at the end of the Stone Age, around 10, that is not the end of the Stone Age. A little overview of the early history of Britain. Around 10,000 years ago, during the Stone Age, Britain was not separated through the Channel from Europe, and the people just went back and forth, and they followed deer and horse herds and hunted them. Then the Channel arose, and Britain was separated, and what happened? So in around 6,000 years ago, the first farmers from probably Southeast Europe arrived in Britain, and they settled there. And they built houses and tombs and monuments, and one of these monuments is Stonehenge, which is in Wiltshire, and it was probably used for seasonal ceremonies. And then there's another thing still standing, that is Skarbray, a prehistoric village on the island Orkney, which is north of the coast of Scotland, and that village helps to give archaeologists an overview of how the people lived during the time. Then the Bronze Age happened 4,000 years ago, and the people were using bronze and also gold to make ornaments and tools and beautiful other stuffs out of bronze and gold. Then the Iron Age came, and the people were doing the same thing out of iron, tools and weapons. They grouped more together, larger settlements arose, for example, then also Maiden Castle, which is a hill fort in Dorset. And the language they spoke was Celtic, and the people in Europe also spoke similar languages to Celtic, and the people today in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales are speaking related languages to Celtic. And I forgot what happened then. The coins, we had them the coins. And then the coins. But I haven't had to mention it. I could finish this. A little overview of the early history of Britain. So during the Stone Age, 10,000 years ago, Britain was not separated through the Channel from Europe, and the people living there could just follow the deer and horse herds. Then the Channel arose, and then the first farmers came 600 years ago. And they came probably from Southeast Europe. And they built houses and tombs and monuments, and one of these monuments is Stonehenge in Wiltshire. And they also lived in a village which is called Skarbray, which is on Orkney, an island north of the coast of Scotland. And that village helps people to give an overview of how the people lived during the time. And Stonehenge was used for seasonal ceremonies. And when the Bronze Age happened, 4,000 before Christ, 4,000 years ago, we could actually take the part before, but I'm going to try it now one more time, then we're going to do the morning stretching, and otherwise I'm going to do it in the next part. A little overview of the life of early Britain. I don't know what I can say here, because it's pretty difficult to resume it all. A little overview of the early history of Britain. So during the Stone Age, around 10,000 years ago, Britain was not separated through the Channel from Europe, and the people just followed the deer and horse herds. Then around 6,000 years ago, the first farmers arrived, and they came probably from southeastern Europe. And these farmers, they built houses, tombs and monuments, and one of these monuments, that is Stonehenge in Wiltshire, which was probably used for seasonal ceremonies. And they also lived in a village called Scarborough, which is off the coast of Scotland on Orkney Island, and that helps to give archaeologists an overview of how the people lived during the time. Then 4,000 years ago, the Stone Age happened, and the people were starting to make tools, ornaments, and beautiful things out of bronze and gold. And then the Iron Age happened, and the people were making tools and weapons out of iron. They grouped more together in larger settlements, and that is, for example, then Maiden Castle, an impressive hill fort in Dorset. The language they spoke was Celtic, and it was similar to the other areas in Europe. And today, still in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, a similar language is spoken to Celtic. They started to make coins, they minted coins, and on these coins they had the heads of their kings. And that is the beginning of British history, according to the Life in UK Test Handbook, page 12 and 30. But it wasn't perfect. 3 times did I say it wrong. Ceremonies. Ceremonies. It wasn't perfect, but I don't think there was much wrong. I don't think there was anything wrong. So, now if you're just here for that all, then you can go directly to the next part. We're going to do now the morning stretching. If you participate in that is at your own risk. We're doing... Let's start without the opening. I'm going to stop the camera. If you participate in the morning stretching, that is at your own risk. We're having the legs standing a bit more than shoulder width wide apart. We're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And we're breathing out and we're going to the side. And now breathe in and out, rib cage. And again out. And again in. And out into the middle. And again in. And out. Breathe in and out, rib cage. And again out. And again in. And out into the middle. And the arms down. And the next exercise. No one sees the Archaeopteryx. We're breathing in. Out, one hand slides down the leg and the other shoulder stays down. And breathe again in. And out, take one arm over. And breathe in and out, rib cage. And again out. Again in. And out into the middle. Breathe again in. Out, one hand slides down the leg and the other shoulder stays down. Breathe again in. And out, take one arm over. Breathe in and out, rib cage. And again out. We are now the vertical airplane. Feet are standing together, we're breathing in, lifting the arms up. And out, one hand down. And breathe in and reach. And out. Breathe again in. And out, one hand down. And again in. Breathe and reach. And again out. Another round, breathe in. Out, one hand down. Breathe in and reach. And again out. Again in. Out, one hand down. Breathe in and reach. And out, one hand up. And down. And we're closing. Having the legs standing wide apart, we're going slowly down and breathing in. And out. Again in. And out. Last round, breathe in. And out. Again in. And out. Breathe in and close the legs. And out. Now we did a very short morning stretching. It is seasonal ceremonies. Ceremonies would be wrong. So ceremonies, it is ceremonies. Ceremonies. Thank you very much, and until next time.